Hare Krishna. So, how many of you once again had been part of the first part of Gita Unplugged series, chapter 1 to 6? Either you attended partially or entirely. How many of you? Just raise your hand quickly. Keep your hands up. I'm just quickly scanning through it. How many are there? Okay, great. Majority of you. Thank you for returning back for the series. How many of you had attended Legend of Lord Ram, which we recently did also? Okay, so looks like there are some new hands over here. So we all recently, Hare Krishna, we all recently celebrated 22nd January as a Pran Pratishtha ceremony of Lord Ram Lalla or Bhagwan Sri Ram. I was in fact personally there whole that week in Ayodhya. It was an incredible ceremony. How many of you watched it online? How many of you were excited for it? So please raise both your hands if you were excited for Lord Ram installation ceremony. Great. What's next? हो गया 22 तारीख को प्राण प्रतिष्ठा आगे क्या अभी क्या What's next? How many of you have read Ramayana? Please raise your hand. How many of you have read Ramayana? Okay. That's a difficult question. How many of you have seen Ramayana? Oh, that's an easy question. So many of you have seen Ramayana. But what you have seen exactly is not what Valmiki Ramayana is about. There are a lot of things which gets added over a period of time, and then they really cannot present the whole idea. So they give you some synopsis. At the end of the day, you are confused, and the director is confused, everyone is confused. But there has been some sattvic entertainment. Now, if you look at Valmiki Ramayana, I believe all of you would be aware. In fact, you have seen Ramayana. There is no incident or there is no section in Valmiki Ramayana where Lord Ram is teaching anything. Of course, Lord Ram teaches by his own personal example what should be the conduct, etc. But that, it's just not very easy to replicate in today's day and time because the situations are way different than what it was at the time of Lord Ram, Satyuga. So Lord Ram character is impeccable. He's a supreme personality Godhead, no doubt about it. We are happy and excited about Lord Ram's installation ceremony. But that same Lord Ram, to teach us how to live our life, that's what's not exactly done in Ramayana. He does it, for example, indeed, but he comes back as Lord Sri Krishna. And that same Lord Ram, the same Lord Sri Krishna, he, during the war of Kurukshetra, at Kurukshetra, he spoke what is known as Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of Mahabharata, Bhishma Parva. And that Gita, Bhagavad Gita is spoken, and this is the only spoken words that has been recorded in the history of mankind. And particularly, these are those recorded words which are spoken for the upliftment of an individual. This Bhagavad Gita, if in case you had been excited about Pran Pratishtha, all those who had been excited about Pran Pratishtha should be equally or more excited about the teachings of the Lord. Lord Krishna being not different from Lord Ram, then we should also be equally excited for the teachings. Why? Because those instructions went for our emancipation, for our well-being. And that is what we are doing now. We are resuming our Bhagavad Gita course after discussing about legend and glories of Lord Sri Ram. Now we're going to start with or resume with Gita Unplugged Part 2. Bhagavad Gita have 18 chapters. First 6 chapters talk about Karma Yoga. Now we're going to talk about chapter number 7 to chapter number 12. Before I move forward, let's quickly take a look what was discussed in the first 6 chapters. Maybe why don't I ask you? Many of you attended. What does come to your mind when you hear chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita? What was the main thing that happened in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita?
Just the I mean, the two
Warring sides are
warring
facing.
sides are there, and Arjun says to Lord Krishna that no, you take me a bit ahead. I want to see all the people, and that's where Arjun, starts having double mind about whether I should fight
When
this
he
war.
sees his relatives, when he
Yeah,
sees
yeah,
his guru.
yeah.
So the chapter 1 largely talks about bewilderment of Arjuna.
Right.
Precisely. If one line, if I have to say, thank you for that. What does chapter 2 talks about? Raise your hands and I will call upon. What does chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita talks about? Chapter 2 is said to be contents of Gita summarized. It's a big chapter, big chapter. There are many things. But does any one thing that comes to your mind that chapter 2 talks about?
Introduction of the Kingsman or everyone.
Huh?
Introduction of the Kingsman or everyone, like
Okay.
grandfather.
Priyanka, go ahead. You had your hand up.
We are body. We are soul, not body.
Yeah, so one of the key things of the chapter 2, it introduces the concept is we are not the body but spirit soul. Then the rest of the discussion, how do we understand we are not the body but spirit soul? Great, thank you for that. Then what is chapter 3 about? What is the main substance of chapter 3? Chapter 3 is titled as Karma Yoga. What is the main subject matter of chapter 3? There are many things, but we're just picking up one subject matter. Chapter 2, one main subject matter. You are not the body but spirit soul. Arjuna, stop being attached or stop looking at the world from the perspective of bodily consciousness. You are Atma, you are eternal. It is the body that takes birth, it is the body that dies. Soul is unborn. Soul never dies. Such a profound statement, such a profound statement. What does chapter 3 talks about? One key element. Yes, Mother Sudha. Give her the mic, please.
Do your work, do not hanker after the fruits of the action.
Okay, fantastic. So perform your work, do not be attached to the results of your work. Great. What else? What else? What else? What else? Chapter 3. Yes.
Talks about two dharmas, Swadharma and Nitya
That was the
Dharma.
second part of chapter 2. In chapter 2, second part, Swadharma and Nitya Dharma is discussed.
Karmanyavadhikaraste.
That's also part of chapter
Chapter
2. Chapter 2. Second chapter was number 47. What is chapter 3? Chapter 3. Okay, last input from Mother Behind. What is chapter 3 about?
It talks about renunciation.
Renunciation, chapter 3. So, chapter 3 talks about what is that? Yadyat acharti shreshta tattad eva tarojanaha. Lokastad anuvarte, like that. In other words, chapter 3 talks about performing a responsible action and how action should be performed. Yatyadachriti sheshas, whatever a great man does, everyone else follows. So, chapter 3 discussion is all about art of smart work. How can you perform your work? How can you perform your actions and yet not get contaminated by it? Or how to translate your action into worship? How your work itself becomes worship. That's the subject matter of chapter 3. What was the subject matter of chapter 4? So, chapter 4, for the first time, Krishna was introduced, or Krishna introduces himself. Chapter 3 ends with the need of cultivating transcendental knowledge, because chapter 3 ends with a discussion of our eternal enemy, that is lust. So, chapter 4 begins with cultivating spiritual knowledge. And to cultivate spiritual knowledge, of course, we need to understand who Krishna is, who living entities are. So, that's the discussion of chapter 4. And another very important subject matter of chapter 4 is if you want to understand spiritual knowledge, if you want to understand who is the Supreme Lord, you want to understand your true nature, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seva. You have to take shelter of a bona fide guru. That's the main subject matter of chapter 4. What chapter 5 talks about? Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness. The three major subject matter of chapter 5. The first subject matter is three doers. You are not the only doer. Any action performed by you is not entitled to you only. Because if you think I am the doer, before an action there is a thinking. Before a thinking there is a desire. How many of our desires are fulfilled? Not every desire of ours is fulfilled. If some desire is fulfilled, why some is fulfilled, not other is fulfilled? So then Krishna talks about the concept of three doer. Then Krishna talks about the concept of what does knowledgeable person means. What does it mean to be in knowledge? And then Krishna talks about the peace formula. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka mahishwaram suedam sarvabhutanam gyatva shantim mrachati. That's how fifth chapter concludes. What is the main subject matter of chapter 6, titled as Ashtanga Yoga? What is chapter 6 about? Chapter 6 subject matter is be a yogi at all times, circumstances, and situations. So, by chapter 6, Krishna has spoken about Karma Yoga, Krishna has spoken about Jnana Yoga, Krishna has spoken about Ashtanga Yoga, and now Krishna compares all the three yoga paths and tells Bhakti Yoga is the easiest. Ashtanga Yoga is not possible, Jnana Yoga is not possible. Karma Yoga, if it is done for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, then it is called as Bhakti Yoga. So, like that has been discussed. With this, our first sixth chapter concludes. What's next? At the end of the sixth chapter, Lord Shri Krishna makes this statement. Please repeat after me. Yoginam api sarvesham. A little loudly, please. Madgatena antaratmana. Shraddhava bhajate yoma. Same yuktatamo mataha. So, chapter 6 concludes with Krishna telling Arjuna, be a yogi in all times, in all circumstances, and all situations. And he says, Yoginam api sarvesham. Well, you can be Jnana Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, Karma Yogi, Bhakti Yogi. Which yogi is best? So, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham. According to me, that yogi is best. Mad gatena antaratmana, who is always thinking about me. Shraddhavan bhajate yamam. Bhajati means to worship. Who worship me? With how? With faith. Same yuktatamo mataha. Such a yogi is to be considered to be the highest. It is Krishna who is introducing us to the yoga path, yoga tradition. It is Krishna who tells us who is also the best yogi. Now, Arjuna ponder, my dear Lord, you said, who serves you with faith. How does faith develops? Let me ask this question to all of you. How does faith develops in anything? Let's say if I study, go to school, and if I go to college, I will get a job. Not necessarily everyone gets a job, but we still go through the whole process, and we are very faithful that we will get a job someday. About everything. Everything and anything that we do in life is driven by faith. But what drives faith? Faith is dependent on what? Yes, you had your hand up. Go ahead. Faith comes from knowledge. Knowledge comes from hearing and reading. Is that yes or no? Imagine if none of us have visited Australia. But how do we believe Australia exists? Because we have heard about it. We have read about it and probably we have seen it on the TV. But we have not visited personally. But how do we have a faith? If I ask you a question, does Australia exist? None of you would say, maybe exists, sir. I would ask, why you say maybe? कभी गया नहीं ना, तो भरोसा नहीं है. Anyone know what you say? No. You said definitely exists. And I ask you, have you been there? No. You have not have a pratyaksha, which means you don't have a pratyaksha praman. Yet you strongly believe in it. Why? Through Shabda praman. Because you have heard it and you have a faith on the authority from whom you have heard it. So now when Krishna said, worship me with faith, Arjuna, but obviously asked the question, how do I cultivate faith? And to answer this question, Lord Shri Krishna will speak from chapter 7 to chapter 12, which is called as Bhakti Yoga. Where now for the first time, not exactly for the first time, but Krishna has the opportunity to discuss in detail about his opulences. If you want to know how great Ram Lalla is, how great Lord Ram is, then we got to read chapter 7 to chapter 12 to understand the greatness of Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, or any of Vishnu, different names of Vishnu. So let's begin with the discussion for today. So chapter 7, we are giving it a title as Show Me God. How many times have you ever wondered, or how many times people have asked you, oh, you believe in God? Can you show me God? Has anyone ever posted this question to you? Please raise your hand. So what do you answer? अरे अपने ने नहीं देखा तो तुम्हें को क्या दिखाएंगे? भाई हमने खुद नहीं देखा तो आपको क्या दिखाएंगे? Yes or no? If I ask you, how many of you believe in God? Raise your hand. How many of you have seen the God? Only one hand is up. One or two people think they have seen the God. But everyone here believes. Everyone here believes God exists. But hardly anyone has seen God. So does this subject matter becomes important for discussion? Yes or no? Now if you can see God, now there is no more challenge to the subject matter of God. So through chapter 7, Krishna teaches us how to see Him at all times, in all circumstances and situations. So how many of you are ready to see the God? Raise your hand. Am I loud enough and clear at the back? Okay, okay. So as usual for every chapter, for this chapter also we'll give an acronym, and the acronym for this chapter is HEAD. HEAD, head. And let's begin with it. My humble request to all of you, if in case you have not done it, I had probably suggested last time also, when you come for these sessions, please bring a pen or a paper, a pen or a pencil, and bring a copy of Bhagavad Gita for yourself, so that you start revisiting along with me the chapters that we are discussing, and you start making important notes then and there. How many of you remember what you ate 2 days before for the lunch? Please raise your hand. How many of you remember what you ate 2 days before for the lunch? Which means you should precisely remember what sabji, what dal, what variety of rice. Now, if it is taking a while for you, and only some of you remember now, so imagine what will you remember when we meet next time for the next chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You will be a clean chit. And if you keep coming here as a clean chit, at the end of the day, whole Bhagavad Gita will end. You will remain clean chit. कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा, कुछ परिवर्तन नहीं पड़ा. So my humble request, you're taking out your time. Value your time for yourself. How many of you don't have a copy of Bhagavad Gita? How many of you don't have your personal copy of Bhagavad Gita? Raise your hand. What I mean by personal copy means you have your personal mobile. Don't tell me मेरी माँ के पास पड़ा है कन्नौज में. Don't tell me this thing. I'm asking, when you have your own personal bag, personal laptop, personal mobile, whatnot. So how many of you here do not have a personal copy of Bhagavad Gita, which we can say this is my copy? Don't tell me this is my kid's copy, my father's copy, my husband's copy. Raise your hand high up. So my request is, we have copies for distribution in the back. Please pick up your copy. Write your name in care of A, B, C, D, whatever your name is. Make that as a personal copy of yours, and then start bringing for every session so you utilize your time well. And bring a pencil, not a pen. Bring a pencil and bring a marker. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of my Bhagavad Gita right now, otherwise I would have shown you how to make notes. Bring a pencil, bring a marker. When we're going through certain sections of it, you can make notes on top of it. And if I say something which you find which is in the purport, which is important, highlight it. When later on, let's say day after tomorrow, you pick up that section, it will not take more than 3 to 5 minutes to revisit the whole chapter. But imagine you come here, you hear it, and after a few days you open Bhagavad Gita, if in case you have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, and you open chapter 7, it will take a complete 1 hour for you to revise what you heard. Yes or no? So who needs to value time here? You need to value your own time. So don't make this mistake. Please do pick a copy. If in case you want to go and pick a copy for yourself right now, go back on the book table. Do give your name over there and pick a copy of your Bhagavad Gita, and come back here and start making notes. All right. So acronym, let's begin with it. What H for hearing stands, which means the first 3 verses of chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shri Krishna says, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, loudly. मैं नोट कर रहा हूँ, कोई बोलेगा नहीं तो प्रसादम कैंसिल कर दूंगा. ओके, जोर से बोलो. श्री भगवान उवाचा मयि आसक्त मना पार्था योगम युञ्जन् मदाश्रया asamshayam samagrama yatha jnasyasi tashrunu. So Lord Shri Krishna says, now hear, yatha jnasasi tat shunu. Tat shunu means now hear from me about me. Because it's about worshipping me, so you need to know about me. That's how you develop faith. Now hear, O son of Prita, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So my question comes. How to gain perfect knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead? There are two ways of acquiring knowledge. One is called as inductive, second is called as deductive. Or you can call it as ascending and descending process. Just like how many of you are here engineers? Raise your hand. All right. Good or bad engineers, that's not a question, but some engineers. Okay. So most of us are engineers, including I. So how did you become an engineer? By ascending process of knowledge or by descending process of knowledge? What is ascending and descending? Ascending means you learn your way and you become an engineer. Descending is you go through the courses and curriculum, you receive knowledge has been given to you from the different grades of your school, then your engineering college, and through that descending process, you become an engineer. So let me ask a question. How did you become an engineer? Through ascending or descending process of knowledge? Descending. None of us invented and became an engineer. Agreed? We didn't went through researching and becoming an engineer. We went through. Just imagine just to become an engineer or just to know. There is a particular kind of an animal which is found in South America. You know about this whole civil engineering which is needed for constructing a dam? You know, we call civil engineering or whatever knowledge is required to build a whole dam. There is an animal or creature by the name of beavers. This beaver have not gone through any primary, secondary school. They are not civil engineers. They are not graduate from any school. But this beaver, when it is a time for him to mate, which means to get married in our language, or for them to mate, to find a partner, then their condition to find a partner is this beaver has to build his own house. And where do they build their house? They build a house. Now, first of all, while they're building a house for themselves, they have to, they're going to mate and they're going to produce kids. So the beaver has to ensure his partner and the kids are protected. So he has to create his habitat accordingly. And how do they do? It takes them more than an year effort, every day hours of effort to build their safe haven or accommodation. And what is that? They build a whole dam on a river, on a flowing river. They stop, they build a whole dam on it, and within that dam, they create a multiple story cottage. And within that, in the middle level, so that neither the snake, no land animal, no sea animal can go and attack his partner and the kids. Can you imagine how much engineering is required to do so? And he has not gone through any academic study. I will send you this video of beavers later on. If time permits, I'll show you. Or maybe give me a quick second. Our discussion will get halted, but let me give you a... Do you know, have you seen this video about beavers? How did they do it? So you see here, he has a sharp teeth. He goes into the jungle. He starts cutting the trunk of a tree. You see that this is what he has done it. He brings log after log, blocks the flowing river water, and creates a dam-like structure. It almost takes him almost an year effort, everyday hours of effort. शादी करने के लिए बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है दुनिया में. जानवर को भी बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ रही है. And this is how he continues doing that. And And this all, each of this has been, this logs have been created by him. He goes and break the trunk of a tree. Look what he has done. Such a massive kind of a bridge he has made or a dam he has made. Now he'll show you the video. Look, isn't that's what happened in dam? On one side of it, the water level rises, and other level, the water level is low. And here, so what is happening is, he has created a dam here, but he's not staying there. Because he has got the water level behind high, what he has done, he has created a house here at the corner. So he creates a dam and then creates his house elsewhere, wherein here you will show different stories that he builds up. Ground floor, first floor, second floor. A nice family planning he does. पहला बच्चा कौन से रूम में रहेगा, दूसरा बच्चा, he does everything. Huh? Take a look. And look, generally the shape of the dam is curvy. It's not straight, it's a concave. And this is a beaver here. This hole becomes his habitat now. He can raise his family, and as an example is given of dams, how they are a concave shape. So the question which has been raised, how did this beaver acquire such a phenomenal knowledge? And this is where the habitat, now they'll show how the house of a beaver looks like. And now this is the entry point to the house of a beaver. And if you see, it comes from the water and now it is above the water level. And that's where the spouse or the female counterpart is there. And that is where she's going to lay eggs, give birth. And the kids are going to be, kind of taking birth there and growing in such a safe place. This is right above the water level. Multi-story house. What a civil engineering miracle. All right, let's come back to our discussion now. So why we were talking about this, our original question was how to gain a perfect knowledge about Supreme Lord. And we were talking about ascending and descending process. You all became engineers because of descending process of knowledge. Just to become an engineer, if in case we are so proud to be civil engineer, think about beavers. They build everything for themselves. They get the raw material, they do the construction, and they raise their family perfect. They find their food also. So, coming forward to the subject matter, just like to become a simple engineer, we have to acquire knowledge from others. Can you understand the Supreme Lord, who is way beyond this manifested creation? We are nothing but a tiny living entity on this tiny earth in context or contrast of this huge, massive creation. Can you and I, based on our research and mental speculation, figure out who is the Supreme Lord? Is it ever possible? When a beaver can become an engineer, we couldn't even do that. What we can do to understand the Supreme who's beyond this creation. So there are three ways of acquiring knowledge. First, Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman and Shabda Praman. What you see, you learn from that. Anuman, you speculate about it. Just like, so much in the news media and the, media in general, there's a lot of things goes about and they speak so many things without giving any reference to their source of knowledge. If they believe in something, what is the reference? Generally, you don't find that. That is called as Anuman Praman. And third is Shabda Praman. Let's make this subject matter easy. How can a child know who is his father? If we call it ascending and descending process of knowledge, or if we say Pratyaksha, Anuman and Shabda Praman, what would you say the easiest way to know who is my father? Just ask your mother, who is my father, isn't it? Or are you going to speculate about, okay, looks like my ears looks like this man, maybe I'm his son. My nose looks like this man, maybe I'm his son. My eyes looks like this man, maybe I'm his son. You don't want to sit back and speculate? Or do you want to do a research, DNA analysis? If you start doing DNA analysis on all the human beings, on the male population, you might have to take birth hundreds of times before you can figure it out. Who was your father? And he would have died hundreds of times by the time you know who was your father. So the simplest and easiest way to know about this complex subject matter, who is my father, is just ask a mother. Mother becomes an authority. Similarly, how do we know Krishna? Srila Prabhupada writes.
How to know Krishna?
Little closer, Mike. Yeah.
Therefore, one has to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non devotee upstart puffed up with academic education. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna.
Therefore, Krishna said, Arjuna, if you want to know about me, faith comes from knowledge. And who is the best person to give you knowledge about me? I. Thus, therefore, hear from me. And therefore, Prabhupada is saying, by either hearing from Krishna or hearing from those who have heard from Krishna or have come in that parampara, disciplic line, then we can know about Krishna. This is the point here. So, Krishna, we learn about him from hearing. From hearing, we develop knowledge. From knowledge comes faith. And from faith comes remembrance. In whatever subject matter you have faith, that will, you can sit down, sit down. When you did, I'll call you. When whatever subject matter we have faith, to that we cultivate remembrance. So once again, all of us know God is great, right? We all know God is great. Is there anyone who can explain how great God is? Saying that God is great is just a simple statement. But is there any one of you, believers in the God, who can say or explain the greatness of God? If we do not know greatness of God, to say how great is God, it's just not going to last, because generally we are living in the world where there's so much propaganda against the subject matter of God consciousness. Everyone is trying to tell us God does not exist. Particularly for Sanatan Dharma, particularly in Sanatan Dharma, or for Sanatan Dharma, there's a lot of propaganda to explain and say Lord Ram doesn't exist, Krishna doesn't exist, and so forth. So we all, Hindus or whoever we are, we got to pick up books like Bhagavad Gita to read and understand. Look at Prahlad Maharaj heard from Narad Muni. That's why he developed his faith. Mother Rukmini never saw Krishna, but she heard about Krishna from Narad Muni. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada went and spoke about Krishna to the hippies back in America. They heard from Prabhupada and they developed faith about Krishna from Prabhupada. So that's how we learn about God. Now the next question comes. Arjuna pondered and then he asked the question, my dear Lord, how do I answer those people who ask me a question, can you show me God? Okay, I believe, but what if they challenge me, can you show me God? I don't know how to answer that. So Lord Shri Krishna answered this question in the next section, which is from verses 4 to 12. Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, what is the question of asking, can you show me God? I am present everywhere. You look anywhere, you will find me. And that's how the discussion begins, where Krishna says, to give you an example, imagine, I often say that, remember your good old days as a small child when you used to go to school. Imagine one fine afternoon you come back from your school and you see on the dining table your father's car or scooter key on the table. You have not seen the father. The moment you see the car key or the scooter key, what would you remember? But have you seen your father? But just seeing the keychain which belongs to the father, now do you see the father? So what is missing for all of us is we do not know to whom everything belongs. If we know, then we can see Krishna everywhere. And that's what Krishna says here. Krishna says, Arjuna, bhumirapo nalo vayu, kham mano buddhi evacha, ahankar ityamte, binna prakriti ashtada. In other words, Krishna said, all of us, everything is made up of 5 raw elements or materials. Earth, skin, body, earth, water. This body has plenty of water. Fire, we are a walking oven, 98.4 Fahrenheit. Earth, water, fire, air, we are between molecules. Now, either be the table, either be this building, everything is made up of these 5 elements. Krishna says, these are my energies. The one who knows now can see Krishna everywhere, yes or no? Not only that, Krishna says, Ahankar, mind, intelligence, and false ego, which forms our subtle body. Krishna says, this is also my energy. Not only this, Krishna says further in 7.5, he says, Aparyam itastu anyam, prakriti vidhi me param. In other words, Krishna says, Arjuna, what I have told you about this earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, this is inferior. There is a superior energy to this inferior energy, and that is said to be Jivatma. And Krishna says, Arjuna, this Jivatma is also my energy, is my part and parcel. Therefore, in the 5th chapter, verse number 18, Krishna says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, one who has got knowledge. What is his vision? Brahmani Gavihastani Sunichaya Sapakicha Pandita Samadarshana. When he sees all living entities across all the species, he sees all of them with an equal vision. What is that vision? Everything is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. This is the true message of universal brotherhood. Therefore, religion is meant to bring people together. Religion can never be the cause of crisis or war. It is irreligion which causes war. And it is our problem where we have considered irreligion to be a religion. But true religion always promotes true brotherhood, not only amongst human beings but across the species. So, like that, Krishna says, Arjuna, everything is my energy. If everything is Krishna's energy, so when you see the keychain of your father, you remember father. So when you see anything and everything, would you not remember Lord? Only thing is, we have not yet developed that understanding. Srila Prabhupada, San Francisco Beach, is going for a morning walk, and suddenly there is a beautiful sunrise. Prabhupada disciple turned to Prabhupada and said, Swami, just look at beautiful sunrise. And Prabhupada paused and said, if the painting is so beautiful, how beautiful must be the painter? All of you understood? If the painting is so beautiful, how beautiful. Prabhupada was seeing the painter. Why? Because he knows everything belongs to Krishna, just like a child knows his keychain belongs to my father. That's the point. So, unseen is proven by the seen. That's what we explained right now. And Krishna speaks about this concept of unseen. Father is not seen, but through the keychain I see the Father. Please repeat after me. Mataha parataram nanyat kinchidaste dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana. This 7th chapter, 7th verse of Bhagavad Gita. You see this beautiful neck beads on the neck of Krishna? Sutre mani gana eva. Mata paratarmanyat. There is no truth superior to me. I am the absolute truth. And look, keep looking at the neck beads of Krishna. Krishna says, Sutre mani gana eva. Now, when you look at the neck beads, what do you see? You just see the neck beads. But what is keeping the neck beads together? I am that Sutradhar. I am that Sutradhar which is keeping this creation together. How many of you know people with eyes wide open crash into others? That is called as road accident, right? With eyes wide open, they drive into somebody else or drive into the tree and get into an accident. My question to all of you is, who is driving this cosmic entities that we call as planets? What we call as stars? Unlimited. If you don't believe me, look up in the sky. It's filled with unlimited stars. We are just one of the cosmic entity floating in such a traffic, but we have never had an accident. But you and I, who claim to be the highly intelligent species, with four spatial eyes, we crash into others. But this planet is moving around on its own. So that's what Krishna says, I am the Sutradhara. Second is principle of understanding of seeing God everywhere is cause and effect. Satellite. The satellite is moving around. It's an effect. It's an effect. What is a cause? There are scientists sitting at the space station who are managing the satellite, correct? Yes, sir. Similarly, planet Earth. Its rotational speed is 1670 km per hour. Its revolution speed is 60 kilometer or 60 times greater than of a shot bullet. None of us are experiencing anything. On a two-wheeler, if you go above 40 kilometer, you experience the jerk. You drive over 60 in a car with the windows rolled down, you experience the wave or the wind. But the earth is revolving on its orbit along with rotating also 60 times that of a bullet. None of us is experiencing. So is that a cause or an effect? It's an action, it's an effect. Imagine you're watching a cricket match and as usual we have fallen asleep. And suddenly there's a big uproar. Ooh, chakka lag gaya. And you open your eyes and you see ball flying out of the stadium. What will you immediately do? You see the ball flying out of the stadium. What will you immediately do next? What will you do? What will you do next? Okay, shout, chika. Kyun mara? Kisne mara? ठीक है. What will you do next? Your eyes will immediately go back to the stadium. Look at who on the crease hit the shot. Yes or no? Because this is an effect, is not a cause. The one who hit the ball is a cause. The point is, this planet Earth is rotating and revolving in such a high speed. Is it a cause or effect? Who is the cause? So, who is in control of all these cosmic entities? NASA? SpaceX? ISRO? Or is there God in control of things? For all intelligent people, indication is enough. I don't think so. I need to speak further on this subject matter. Could God be in control of things? So, like this, we can see Krishna everywhere. How? Unseen is proven by the seen, neckbeard example, and cause and effect. Let's move forward from here. Then Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, if you are present everywhere, then why there is a wholesale denial of your existence? Why so many people do not believe in your existence? This is a subject matter where discussion happens from 13th verse onwards. Where Krishna tells here, Arjuna, there always will be people who would accept me and there always will be people who would reject me. And then Krishna speaks about the nature of people who will not accept me and the nature of people who will accept me. So, before I give Krishna's answer, all of you have atheistic friends? So, can you like to pinpoint some nature of those atheistic friends? How are those atheistic friends? I mean, you don't have to name them, but what things comes to your mind if you just club all those atheistic people together? There are certain qualities which Krishna is going to address here, but let me take some input from you. Yes, go ahead, ladies.
They don't want to believe if we give logical answers also.
They don't want to believe. They're fools. If you give them logical answers, still they will not believe. Moodas. What else?
They are actually living in denial.
Perfect. They're living in denial. They don't want to accept reality. What else? What else?
They think as if they know everything.
They know everything.
And they are mostly self-centered.
Mostly self-centered. When our Dronacharya had asked once Duryodhan, Duryodhan, go and find a king better than you. And he asked Yudhishthira Maharaj, Dronacharya, asked Yudhishthira Maharaj, go and ask, not a king, ask somebody better than you and go and ask or find somebody who is inferior to you. So Duryodhan went out and he searched, surveyed and came back. And Dronacharya asked, so, did you find anyone better than you? He said, no, my dear Guru Maharaj, I am the best. Everyone is inferior to me. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj came back. Yudhishthira Maharaj, Dronacharya asked, Yudhishthira, did you find anyone inferior to you? He said, my dear Gurudev, everyone was better than I. I was the most inferior. So, people like this, I know everything syndrome. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? What does Krishna says? Let's take a look at it. Krishna says, before we talk about it, Krishna introduces some very interesting concept of magic spell. How many of you have seen magic shows? Raise your hand. On a TV or a live show? Live show you have seen? And you know that it's just a trick of hand. Isn't it? There's no magic actually happening. But for you it looks like, oh, it's an amazement. Similarly, Krishna introduces a concept of a magic spell. Okay, let me put it this way. I don't know how many of you could guess it. If you have ever seen anyone who smokes, or anyone if you know who drinks alcohol, you might have seen sometimes they will overdo it and the next morning they will vomit it. And they go in the bathroom, they cough out and whatnot they do, as if their lungs gonna come out of their chest and whatnot they do. And if in case they smoke, sometimes they really get this very bad coughing and whatnot. And when you look at them, you think maybe ab sudhar jayega. Maybe has got enough punishment. He or she will not drink or smoke. Yes or no? And looking at their face also looks like. But after 3 days, yes? Why? Have you ever wondered? They went through so much suffering. People spend money to buy happiness. We have an intelligent class of human beings who buy misery, who spend their hard-earned money to buy misery. Is there any way who can argue on this point? प्रभु जी मैं अल्कोहल नहीं पीऊंगा तो मैं पतला हो जाऊंगा, विटामिन D12 की कमी हो जाएगी. अगर मैं स्मोक नहीं करूंगा तो मेरा लंग्स खराब हो जाएंगे. Any debate on it? Any one of you purchase any of these things, there is a warning. Yet we spend money to buy misery. We suffer. Yet after a few days we do it again. Have you ever wondered, कैसे कर सकता है? How can you do it? Any guesses? And this is one example. Similarly, all of us have gone through many situations. Just like, some of us may have little particular weakness. Maybe ठंडा पानी पिएंगे तो गला खराब हो जाता है. But ठंडा पानी tastes very nice. So every season, right across the winter season, I know I've had many experiences. If I drink of cold water, I would fall sick. But yet, ye dil mange more. You take it, you get sick, you suffer, and then you're saying, "Bas Bhagwan, is baar maaf kar do. Agli baar main dhyan se garam pani piya karunga." We repeat it. How many of us have been a victim of this? Please raise your hand. And there could be many things, any things like this. Does it make sense? Imagine you have a son or a daughter, you see him or her making a mistake. And then you see him getting punished for it. And afterwards, he or she does it again. What will you call that person? What will you call that child? What will you say? He's a crazy kid. इसको 2 चाटा लास्ट टाइम मारा था तभी भी नहीं समझा. बड़ा ढीठ है. Before you say this to next time to your kids, अपनी ढीठता को भी याद रखना. Alright, do not forget about yourself. Why we keep repeating the same mistakes and we keep suffering again and again? Any idea? Why? Krishna gives an answer. And Krishna tells, everyone is covered over by my magic spell. What is that magic spell? Ignorance. You go through a suffering and soon you get covered over by ignorance where you forget that suffering. You again do it, you again suffer, again you forget about it. And that is the subject matter. Krishna's magic spell is what Krishna says. And this magic spell is called as 3 modes of material nature, which will be discussed in the 3rd segment of Gita Unplugged series in detail over there. So these 3 modes please read it. You have the mic? Read out.
The 3 modes keep the conditioned soul forgetful of self and Supreme Lord Krishna. Question.
So this 3 modes keeps us always in forgetfulness. Question.
How we get covered by material energy?
Well, okay, I put this question. So any and every living entity born in this creation, as soon as he takes birth out of the womb of the mother, he gets covered over by this illusionary energy. Second question, how can we get freedom from this? Okay, let me ask this question. If imagine you have done a mistake, you have suffered for the consequences of it, how many of you would prefer to have an option that I would not like to make that mistake and suffer again? Please raise your hand. And if in case you're looking for an answer, which means we have to find a way how we can rise above this magic spell, right? How we can overcome this magic spell. So Krishna says, or Arjuna asks, how do we overcome this magic spell? Krishna answers, please repeat after me. Devi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mamiva Ye Prapatyante Maya Metam Tarantite. Read out.
This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
I'll give you a simple example to help you understand. Imagine in your neighbor's house, or maybe an apartment or a bungalow, there is a ferocious dog. Every time you walk outside of the door of that neighbor, the dog comes barking at the gate and is about to really, eat you away like that. Imagine one day you have to enter that house and you're really scared. I cannot enter, and you really have to go inside to convey some important message. You peek through the entry gate and you see the dog sleeping and is also tied with a leash. So now the dog is sleeping and is also tied with a leash. How many of you think now I can enter? And imagine it's a very, very important message for you to communicate. So I believe all of us can enter now. The dog is sleeping and dog is tied with a leash. Imagine you had to leave a parcel in the house. You enter the house, open the gate, you reach to the, let's say, a veranda or wherever the opening entry gate is there. There is a table, you keep the parcel on the table. And you turn around and you see right behind you standing is a dog. He's woken up, but you are still happy the leash is around the neck. And then you follow the leash, and then you realize leash is only tied on the neck, not on the other end. So now you have this ferocious, big, almost 6 feet tall or 5 feet tall wild dog looking at you, and his tongue is swirling around his teeth. Aaj to garma garam khane ko milega. And he's looking at you. How many of you say that's it? You're frightened. Nobody can say. What will he do? You will run. You run at your might, and the dog is chasing after you. And the moment the dog was jump at you and really eat you away, suddenly the master comes out. Tommy, sit down. And the Tommy takes his waving tail, puts behind the legs, and sits down immediately. Don't shout! And everything is relaxed. So, how did you overcome that danger? With the help of the master of the dog. Similarly, this material energy wants to control it, he can control and set us free. We cannot. If Krishna tells his Maya Shakti, leave this person, then Maya Shakti will not trouble. And that is what Krishna says. Mamevaya prapadyante, Maya metam tarantite. One who takes my shelter will be protected. Is that clear? Therefore, we all got to take shelter of the Lord. All right, moving forward. And there are 4 kinds of people that Krishna says, or Krishna explained in Bhagavad Gita, who do not take shelter and who take shelter of the Lord. Who are the 4 kinds of people who do not take shelter? First, Hare Krishna. So 4 kind of miscreants who do not surrender, Krishna tells. First, that person is called as Mudha. One who really works very hard, and for him work is everything. When you ask him anytime, can you please do something for yourself? No time. साहब जी मरने का भी समय नहीं है, जीवन इतना व्यस्त है. This is called as Muda, and they are compared in scriptures to Gade. Gada, S, hardworking S. Second kind of people who cannot surrender, come and take shelter of the Lord is Naradhama. Uncivilized, uncultured people who literally live like an animal, animalistic life. Third, Maya Apratjnana, which means whose intelligence has been stolen. They are the intellectual class of the society, but bent on proving God does not exist. And the fourth is Asram Bhava Mashrita, purely envious of the Lord and envious of others. This person himself wants to become the God. So he cannot accept somebody else to be the Lord, just like Ravana, just like Hiranyakashipu cannot accept there can be somebody else superior to me or individual. So these are the four kinds of people who do not surrender. It is not about pious or impious. They can be pious also people. They can be pious people also. But these are the natures and therefore they do not surrender. Now there are four kind of people who surrender. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritano arjuna. Artho अर्थाति जिज्ञासु ज्ञानी च भरत शबा. चार प्रकार के लोग मेरी शरण में आते हैं, भगवान कहते हैं. और ये चार प्रकार के लोग कौन है? जना सुकृतनो. They have to be pious. Only pious people can come and take shelter, as that's how Krishna says. And what are these four people? Distress. How many of us have gone to temple after writing our final paper, where we are confident अपनी नैया पार नहीं होने वाली, भगवान भरोसे, हे प्रभु बस इस बार पास करा दे, अगले सेमेस्टर में जरूर पढ़ूंगा. कितने लोगों ने प्रार्थना करी है? ऐसे हाथ खड़ा करो. मैं भी जाता था. The distressed. Artha, Artharthi, one who is looking for wealth. We go, there is, in Chennai, there is Ganesh Ji Visa Temple. Ganesh Visa Temple. So before you go to visa application office, they go to this particular temple called Ganesh Visa Temple. They put their application there first. And if Ganesh Ji is happy with me, then Ganesh Ji will approve and I'll get my visa. Anyone from Chennai knows of this? This is called Ganesh Visa Temple, to get your temple. Artharthati, desires of wealth, etc. Good people, at least they go to God. Jigyasu, one who's curious, why am I suffering? What's the purpose of whole life? Everyone talks about happiness, but nobody seems to be happy. And even if they talk about happiness, even if they seem to be happy, happiness seems to be very expensive. Because it looks like only a very wealthy people could be happy. What about the people on the street? What about simple engineers, simple us? So it seems like only chosen people could be happy. Like this is what curiosity. And Jnani is the fourth category of person who is in search of knowledge and who knows God exists, but maybe not necessarily understand completely about the existence of God. Like that, Krishna says. And this is one example. I'll skip this example right now. And like this, Krishna explains that the four kinds of people come to me and four kinds of people do not come to me. And every living entity is covered over by my material energy. And that is ignorance. Then Arjuna pondered, my dear Lord, you're speaking about in context of surrender to you. But what about other Devatas? How many Devatas do we have according to Sanatana Dharma?
33 crores.
33 crore Devatas. 33 crore, right? What is Koti means? 33 classification. Okay. What these 33 classifications are? So they are both are correct. There are 33 categories and also 33 crore Devatas. There is a temple in Jammu. When you go and take darshan of Durga Manga, Vaishno Devi, when you come to Katwa, there is a temple. I believe that's a place called Katwa only. There is one temple where you have little shrines of these millions of Devatas. I went there once in my childhood. Now, what is the idea of Devata? Where we say this 33 crore and 33 koti types, all are true. Devatas are, okay, let me ask this question to all of you. We are in a small state called as Maharashtra, in a small city called as Pune, in this big India, isn't it? And within Pune, there are so many little, segments, societies, we call it, areas like Injawadi. So all of you, how many of you are aware? There are different layers of governance that happens. There is a municipality office, there is a Gram Panchayat, even so many details we don't know. There are varieties of elections that happen all around the year. There's Gram Panchayat, there's a municipality, then there is a mayor, then does anyone know what else is there? There are so many classifications like this. Then at max, you may have chief minister of the state, you have a governor, then you have a prime minister, then you have a president. There is so many layers of governance to govern whom? To all of us? I mean, they actually don't govern anything. They only take taxes from us. Even for their misgovernance, they have so many layers. For what? To ensure there is a water supply, to ensure there is an electric supply, maybe to ensure there is a food security, maybe to ensure there is a proper road network. These basic necessities. My question to all of you is, all these facilities by our government is ensured largely for human species. Yes? They're not taking care of birds, beasts, plants, all that. Now my question is, according to Bhagavad Gita's perspective, everything that has a life is living being. Who is providing for every living entity the basic necessities of life? The one animal that eats the most is known as elephant. Hastinapur. Why it was called Hastinapur? Hasti means Hathi. Hastinapur was the capital of the whole world, the richest place because it had many elephants. So elephant is wandering in the forest. He doesn't have to go to any IT job to get some money to purchase food himself. So how does elephant sustain himself? Or for that reason, the bird or any animal. Who provides food for them? Who provides water for them? Who provides basic facility for them? If we say all of it is provided by this multi-level layered governance, who provides for them? There is nobody governing anything over there. Similarly, just like in our society, there are so many levels and layers of governance. In this creation, to maintain this creation, you require a multiple level layered governance. Every day sun rises, every evening moon rises. There is a change of season, there is a rain season, etc. Is all organized and governed by Devatas. Just like you have different roles, you call it mayor, you call municipality, gram panchayat, sarpanch, etc., etc. But they are all not called president. President is one. But they all are government officers, yes or no? Is chief minister government officer? Is prime minister government officer? But is government officer one or many? Many. So Devta is one or many? But president is, prime minister is, so the head is one. So similarly, Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Shiva, Brahma, Durga, Ganesh, any and every one of them, they all call generic language Devata. But when it is about Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, they are not just addressed as Devata. They are addressed as Bhagavan. It will never be mentioned as Bhagavan Surya, Bhagavan Brahma. It will be mentioned as Deva Brahma, Deva Indra. Are you getting the difference? And that's the question which has been asked here. Arjuna is saying, my dear Lord, he seems to be talking about you. What about Anya Devtas? And then Lord Shri Krishna began to explain. What I just explained you now is what Krishna begins to explain. What is called as subject matter deep for demigods, verse number 20-30. To help you understand quickly, I have presented this series of verses in a format of question and answer. So you have the mic. You got to read the question, I'll give the answer. Go ahead, first question.
Why doesn't everybody takes shelter of Krishna?
So Krishna says, why everybody can't take shelter of Krishna? Because of different material desires and different inclinations. So people will approach different personalities. So therefore, we have different options to choose from. Whatever you like, you go and take shelter. That's the reason people don't, not everyone takes shelter of the Lord. Okay, great. Next. So here in the presentation at the end, I have included the verse number, which you can go back and open your Bhagavad Gita and read it later on. Next.
Why demigod worshippers are called less intelligent?
So this is Krishna calling them as, less intelligent, the worshippers of Devatas. And Krishna gives an answer also why he calls them less intelligent. First, Krishna says, whatever is given by or awarded by the worship of Devatas is temporary. Even it may last with you until the end of this life. After the end of life, that's it. You're not going to have anything next birth. If you imagine Steve Jobs, he passed away as the CEO of Apple. But now, when he takes birth again, he has to go and learn A for apple, B for blackberry. He has to go and figure it out once again. He cannot say, Papa, don't you know? I only created apple in my last life. पापा बोलेंगे बच्चा बिना पिए ही जोश में आ गया है. So that's the point. Why demigods? Because their fruits are limited. Second, why demigods worshippers are less intelligent? Krishna says they consider all government officials to be on the same level. They think prime minister is same as the mayor. They think prime minister is same as the sarpanch. This is less intelligent. They consider all to be same. Why Krishna says less intelligent? Krishna says because they do not know the result given by the sarpanch. Whatever benefits are given by any government official ultimately is coming either from the house of the chief minister or from the office of the prime minister. It is they who make the policies, and rest of the government officials, they provide the facility. Similarly, Devatas cannot do anything independently. Everything is decided by the Supreme Personality of God. Is that okay? Okay, next. Third question.
Jiva versus demigods.
So, is there any difference or similarity between us and the Devatas? Like, let me ask you, is there any difference or similarity between you and Sarpanch of Hinjawadi? Or maybe say the mayor of Pune or the chief minister of Maharashtra? What would be the similarity? What would be the similarity? They are also same human being like you. What would be the difference?
Designation.
The power, the difference is position. And that position comes with certain privileges which have been given to it by our constitution. That's the difference because of the position. Similarly, the difference between us and Devatas is the position. Surya is not the name of the Devata. The name of the Surya Devata is known as Vivaswan. 4th chapter, verse number 1, Krishna names Vivaswan. Indra is not the name, Indra is a position. King of Devata is called as Indraraj. Like these, all the names that we know of, they are not the names of the deities. They are like chief minister, they are like mayor, they are like home minister, etc. etc. So please read out the differences.
DGs are
Demigods.
Demigods are administrative representatives of
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Supreme Personality of God.
Commonalities?
Both are Jiva Tattva and energy of the Lord, are within the purview of material energy, dependent on Supreme Personality of God.
Just like we are dependent on the Lord, they also depend on the Lord. 4th question, go ahead.
What is the problem in approaching demigods for material desires?
So Krishna says, well, there is not much a problem, but there is also a problem in approaching demigods for material desires. What is that? First, Krishna says, demigods cannot give benedictions without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The government officials are not the, you can say benefactors. They are not the one who distribute benefits. They are just somebody who passes on the benefit defined by the government agencies. They are just an instrument. Similarly, Devatas cannot give. For example, Hiranyakashipu asked Brahma, make me immortal. Brahma ji said, मैं खुद नहीं हूँ तो तुम्हें क्या बनाऊंगा? Then Hiranyakashipu said, okay, well, have another set of desire. Ravana approached, he said, make me immortal. Brahma ji said, that's not possible. But what I don't have, how can I give it? So that's the point here. Demigod worship is material because they are within this material purview, and what they also give is also remains within this material purview. This is temporary. Worship of the Lord is spiritual. What we call a concept, a profound concept in Vedic sciences of moksha. How many of you have heard the word moksha? What does moksha means? Moksha has different levels of meaning. Initial level of meaning of moksha or liberation is freedom from suffering. To attain a state where you are peaceful, equipoised. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sochati na kankshati. Na sochati means no fear, no worry. Na kankshati means na sochiti. Na kankshati means no lamentation. That's one liberation. Higher than this is liberation from this whole material energy, where we are caught up in birth, death, old age, and disease. Like Buddha, Gautam was a young prince, and that's the time when he came across a dead body, an old man, and he began to wonder, what is this? And his assistant responded, well, this is a dead man, this is an old man, this is a deceased man. Don't worry, you all have to also see this. And Gautam said, oh, I also have to suffer? The servant said, yes. He said, no, I want to find a way so that I can cross over the suffering. That is called as liberation. And finally, the highest understanding of liberation is to develop our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord. Where in whichever situation we are, either be with part of this body or beyond this body, we can always be in connection with that Supreme Consciousness. That's the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. And that's what Krishna or Bhagavad Gita awards a practitioner. Please.
How the Lord facilitates demigod worship.
Krishna says, in fact, it is I who empowers a living entity to worship particular Devata. Empowers the Devatas to fulfill your wishes, and I instill faith in a living entity to worship a particular Devata. It is I. How many of you heard भगवान की इच्छा के बिना तो घास का तिनका भी नहीं हिलता? How many of you heard? Raise your hand. How many of you can explain what it means? How many of you say, I firmly believed भगवान की इच्छा के बिना तो घास का तिनका भी नहीं हिलता? If some of you firmly believe, there has to be a proper reasoning, logical reasoning, what it means to be. We'll come back to it. We'll take your input. Let's finish this. Keep it for car park. Question number 6.
What is the understanding of the pure devotee?
So here, Lord says, so but how does a pure devotee looks at this whole subject matter? Devatas and Bhagwan. And Lord Shri Krishna, this is concluding part of this chapter. First of all, a pure devotee who is firmly fixed in faith, he will not go and worship any Devata. It does not mean you disrespect Devatas. You understand Devatas in a proper position that they are far superior than I. And they are all representative heads of different positions appointed by the Lord. They all need to be respected. But if I need something, I don't go to them because I have the direct phone number of Prime Minister. If you have a direct access to Prime Minister, would you call a Sarpanch of Vinjawadi? But obviously, that's the whole point. It never goes to Devatas. Depends on the Supreme Lord, knows that everything comes from the Supreme Lord, and he does not ask for material benefit. This is all Krishna is teaching Arjuna here. To conclude this chapter, this was the last point. What are the key subject matter this chapter teaches? Prabhu Krishna says demigod worship. Of course, this is the conclusion of this segment, last segment. Demigod worship is material, whereas worship of Supreme Lord is spiritual. The results are also then material and spiritual. Results of demigod worship is perishable, but results of devotional service is eternal and unlimited. A devotee who understands this, he depends only on the mercy of the Supreme Lord and is satisfied with whatever he gives. Like that, Lord Shri Krishna concludes his discussion on the 7th chapter. While concluding his discussion on 7th chapter, just to summarize, in 7th chapter there are 4 things which have been discussed. First subject matter was, Krishna said, Tashrunu, hear from me about me, so that you can develop faith. From knowledge comes faith. Knowledge comes from hearing. You hear from me about me. You develop knowledge. Knowledge gives you faith. Faith gives you remembrance. So then Arjuna asked, my dear Lord, all right, you exist, but if people ask me, can you show me God? Then what did Krishna said? Yes. What's the problem? I am present everywhere. How am I present everywhere? Earth, water, fire, ether is my energy. Mind, intelligence, false ego is my energy. And beyond this matter, even the spirit soul is my energy. Everything belongs to me. Therefore, we can understand or we can see Krishna everywhere. And for that, we talk about 2 concepts. Unseen is proven by seen. We might have not seen our father, but we saw the car keys. We immediately remember father. When we know the car key belongs to the father. Similarly, Prabhupada walking on the beach, saw the sunrise, and Prabhupada said, painting is so beautiful, how beautiful would be the painter. So that's how we begin to see Krishna everywhere. And cause and effect. We talked about these cosmic entities. If the planet Earth is rotating and revolving at such a great speed, it's an effect. What is the cause of it? A satellite is managed by a substation or space station. So, who is managing this satellite called as planet Earth? Can God be in control of things? We raised a question over there. Effect has to be preceded by a cause. Then Arjuna asked the question, my dear Lord, well, if you present everywhere, that's how we can perceive you, fantastic. Then why there is a wholesale denial of your existence? And what did Krishna say? Why people deny? Why people don't recognize me, although I'm prevalent? I'm omnipresent. Why people don't understand me? Why people fail to see me? What did Krishna say?
Ignorance.
They are covered by my magic spell. And to help you understand that, I gave an example. Have you had an incident, let's say you suffered from something, but you ended up doing the same thing again after a while? And to help you understand, I gave an example on alcoholic, who next morning wake up to puke in the bathroom, yet after 2 days again he drinks. A smoker who smokes and who coughs, then after again he again smokes. So he goes through suffering. When he goes through suffering, he thinks, enough, I will not do it. But he does it again. Why? Because of this ignorance. Otherwise, how is it possible, intelligent being knowing that I'm not going to do it, but we repeat again? Now, how do we overcome this magic spell?
To surrender.
And what example did we discuss? Maya Devi is like a dog. Master is Krishna. Only the master can tell the dog, shut up, or sit down. And I gave you an example, if your neighbor has a wild dog, and if you have been attacked by that wild dog, then who can control the wild dog? The master. Krishna says, Ma mevaye prapadyante maya metam. If you take my shelter, I can control. And then Krishna talks about 4 kinds of people who surrender and who do not surrender. Moodaha, Naradamaha, Maya, Apradhyana, Asuram Bhava, Ashita. These 4 categories do not surrender. And Chaturvida, Bhajanti Mam, Jana, Sukritana, Arjuna. There are 4 kind of pious living entities who takes my shelter. Artho, distress. Athati, wants wealth. Jnani, Jigyasu, curious about life. And Jnani, who is search of absolute truth. And finally, the last section, Arjuna raised a question, my dear Lord, you seem to be talking in relation to you. Who takes your shelter, who do not take your shelter? What about other Devatas? Then there's a discussion about Krishna versus Devata. What is the relationship? And there was also a discussion about Devatas versus Jivas. What is the relationship between Devatas and Jivas? There's no difference between Devatas and Jivas as much as there's no difference between us and the Chief Minister of the state. But the difference is of the position. They have been awarded with the position that comes with certain privileges, certain perks, which we don't have it. But all of us are functioning within this material realm. All those devatas are empowered by the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the Chief Minister is empowered by ultimately by the Constitution or by the central government. And to conclude with, Krishna says, therefore, one who is intelligent, he comes and takes my shelter. He does not waste time doing window shopping from this temple to that temple. And that is the subject matter of 7th chapter. When 7th chapter ends, Krishna speaks about 6 terminologies. Something about Adi Deva, Adi Bhutaha. Like that, there are some technical terms Krishna says. And when Krishna spoke like this, then Arjuna had a doubt in his mind. So 8th chapter, ideally, Bhagavad Gita should end now. Krishna said, well, you approach me, everything is okay. But 8th chapter begins with Arjuna's question. When Arjuna asked 8 questions, and in that, the last question was the most important. And that was Antakale. At the time of end of life, what we should do so that there is a guarantee when we give up this body, we do not have to attain or acquire another material body. And that becomes the subject matter of next chapter. Death is the final call or the final exam. How can we graduate? How can we embrace this harsh reality in the right spirit rather than being fearful at the face of death? How can we embrace it in the right spirit so that we make our next life successful. Therefore, in Vaishnava tradition, as much as we celebrate birthday, to that enthusiasm, disappearance days are celebrated. Because for us, death is not an end. Sunset is not the end of the sun. Next morning, there would be a sunrise. Similarly, for a Vaishnava, death is not the end of life, but death is an opening for an eternal life. So, eighth chapter is very, very profound subject matter, where the subject matter of death is discussed. How can we defeat death? How can we face it? How can we go beyond it? And in the eighth chapter, Krishna is going to speak something very interesting for the first time about spiritual world. Okay, Krishna says again and again, if you surrender, if you know me, janma kame chamadivyam evam yuvikti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. Once you give up your body, you will never come back to this world. Go where? You attain to my abode. For the first time, Krishna in 8th chapter will describe what his abode. Not exactly his abode, but what spiritual world looks like. That would be the chapter discussion in 8th chapter. And finally, the 8th chapter will conclude with, after describing how to embrace final exam and how, understanding the spiritual world, the 8th chapter concludes with, what are the different ways we can defeat death? There is karma yoga, jnana yoga. So these all practices also helps us. And there again, once again, a subject matter comes. What is the best way? Just like all of you know what Bhishma Pitamaha? He departed on which day? He departed on which day? Is called as Uttarayan. What is it called? Uttarayan is called as which day? Huh? Makar Sankranti. So Bhishma Pitamaha stayed up on the bed of arrows for more than 2.5 months because he was waiting for Uttarayana. So like this, there is a description in Vedic sciences. If somebody gives up the body in Uttarayana, when the sun moves from north to south, then there is another set of opportunity awaits. And when somebody quits his body in Dakshayana, then he goes downward. In Uttarayana, he goes upward. So like that, there are different things are mentioned at the end of the 8th chapter. When to quit the body, what happens? And then the final question is raised. All of us may not have an opportunity to think when to quit the body. अपने को खाने का पता नहीं होता, खाना कब खाएंगे? Quit the body is a big subject matter. So what is the best and the easiest way that Krishna brings again in the 8th chapter? That would be the subject of 8th chapter. So with that, I'll pause here for today. Thank you all for your kind attention. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Anyone has any quick question here? Oh yeah, go ahead.
My question is about demigods. Like, what's wrong in going to them? And if it's not required, then why are they created?
There is nothing wrong. Why they created? Why you have Sarpanch? Why you have Chief Minister? We talked about, right? Governance. Different individuals. Why there is a Home Minister? Why there is Finance Minister?
So we can still go to them, just not ask anything.
No. There is nobody saying not to go to them. First of all, you understood why they are there?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is no saying that you don't go them. If you see them, offer your respect. But if you have direct contact number of Prime Minister, and if he's available on your call, would you need to visit anyone else? That's the question.
No.
That's it. If you have access to Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it's just but obvious. Why do I need to visit anyone else? It's not needed.
I have.
But if you go, there's nothing wrong. Yet there would be people who would not be able to understand that there's a difference between the mayor and the prime minister. Just like imagine in a small company there is a sweeper. He gets his salary from the cleaning department in charge. For him, uska Bhagwan cleaning department in charge hai. Imagine in the morning he just mops the floor and his floor is still slightly wet. And suddenly the CEO of the company enters. Well, he has never met the CEO. He doesn't know the CEO. What will he tell the CEO? अरे तेरे को दिखाई नहीं देता क्या? Floor गीली है. थोड़ी देर रुक जाना. And here the cleaning department in charge comes running. अरे क्या कह रहा है ये? ये तेरे boss का भी boss है. Now for this sweeper, because he didn't knew who this man is, he treated him as ordinary. That's the point. There would be people who would not understand or who would not want to understand. All right, at least go to the mayor. At least go to this Devta. Don't say that I am independent even of Devatas. That is Asuric. So there are different gradations of people based on their level of consciousness. So they approach different Devatas for that. Krishna says, so be it, not a problem. But they all are less intelligent for that reason. The sweeper is also getting salary ultimately from the CEO. Cleaning department in charge is just a position holder. If that person leaves, somebody else will come and give him salary. Like that. Anything else?
Yeah, I have one question. Prabhuji, it may sound out of context a little bit, but I just want to ask like, when we know that all the living beings will ultimately have to attain moksha, that is the main purpose, sole purpose. So, why does actually God created such a big universe and
Oh, good question. Why did God create it? Why did the Lord have to create this place? Have you ever had an experience as a child you became pretty stubborn? All the parents were saying, don't do it, nahi, main karunga. And the parents finally said, all right, hell with you, go and do it. पिट के आओगे तभी पता चलेगा. How many have that experience? Maybe let's say playing in a rainy day and mother is saying, बेटा खेलने जाओगे बीमार हो जाओगे. Or maybe let's say playing a video game during an exam week. Mother is telling you, beta, study, otherwise you will not score well. All of us have had an experience. You know, I remember I was on the roof of, my grandmother's house, and there were a lot of monkeys there. So my mother warned me, don't go alone. Bandar रहते हैं. But that was a kite season, Basant Panchami, Makar Sankranti ke baad. I was probably of this young boy's age, I remember categorically. I went up and I was flying a kite there. Suddenly, what exactly had happened? Yeah, the monkey had jumped onto my, what do you call as, वो धागा होता है ना, उस पे उसने जंप करा जिसकी वजह से मेरी पतंग गिर के कहीं अटक गई. मुझे बड़ा गुस्सा आया. I was a small child, I didn't knew, and I kind of screamed at the monkey like this, हट करके. I was half the size of that monkey. It was very big monkey. That monkey became so angry, he came and hit me with his legs on my chest. And I went back rolling down. और जब मैं जाके जमीन पे गिरा ना, तो सबसे पहली चीज मैंने बोला, मम्मी. Then I remembered my mother told me not to mess around with the monkey. And after that, I never went, alone to fly a kite when I was a young boy. The point is, my mother warned me, don't go up, there is a monkey. You will unnecessarily get into trouble. Well, I went still, isn't it? Similarly, this place is created for all these haughty, arrogant living entities who just do not want to listen, who want to live a life on their own way. And that's where the situation is there. Situation has been created. But just like a mother, like a loving father, although you may do things against their wish, but they don't leave you. If you go crying back to them, they help you, yes or no? And similarly, Lord has created a system where those who are willing to come back to Him, He provides everything to help us. Even if we are not planning to go back to Him, He has still created a system which is self-sustenance, where we can find everything for our sustenance in this creation. Who gives you sunlight? Because of sunlight, without sunlight, you will not have nothing. Without a moonlight, you will not have any taste in the food that you eat, regardless of whatever processing happens in the factories today. So it is our stubbornness. We wanted to enjoy life in our own way. So like this creation has been given. And you know what we wanted to enjoy? बचपन में वही कहानी सुनाई जाती थी. वो कहा जाता था दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी कहानी है. How many of you remember? एक था राजा, एक थी रानी, दोनों मर गए, खत्म कहानी. This is our story. We all want to become the king of our life. We all want to become the king of our life. Lord says, all right, become the king. Now you only know you're the king or the servant. Then you figure it out what you are. That's what this house world is designed for into it. And message or words of wisdom like Bhagavad Gita helps us navigate the complexities of life in this world, despite of whatever is the situation. Yet, being smiling at the face of challenges, knowing very well, I am not alone. The guiding hand of Lord is always behind me. Have you seen a young child? He may see a puppy, he may go and do hush hush. But the moment puppy charges at the child will go back running to the mother or the father. Now, how did the child got a courage to tell the small, puppy or a dog, move away? Because he knows behind, Papa khade hai. Kuch bhi hoga to bhag jaunga. Like that devotee living in this world, understand whatever it is, at the end of the day, my Lord is there. He'll always protect me. Therefore, devotees of the Lord alone are fearless. And the symptom of fearlessness is you're always smiling. You're always smiling. Have you seen IT folks? We have been around this Hinjawadi for so long. Have you seen people smiling ever? You look at them any time of the day, ऐसा लगता है पिट के आए हो. Either be the morning hour, either be the evening. How many of you agree? Yes or no? Think about it. If you have come from a village background or town background, you just say hello, they'll return back a big smile to you. You look at them, you become demoralized. कुछ तो दुनिया में बुरा चल रहा है, कितनी दुखी जनता है. How many of you agree? If you have noticed people around, they have such a sad and grumpy face. ऐसा नहीं है उसको employment नहीं है. He's employed, he's working, probably he's married also, probably has a house for himself, has a car. Still such a sad looking face. Welcome to the reality. Why? Because he's anxiety ridden. He is fearful. Mera life insurance, mera career security, mera food security, nation security, what not. Devotees without a bank balance are happy. Somebody has all the bank balance, they are crying. So fearlessness. Fearlessness is a sign of somebody who has understood and who have established relationship. And the symptom of fearlessness is the person seems to be always happy, even at the face of challenges. You pick your choice, what you want to be. Happy, even without anything, or sad or morose, even after possessing everything. All right. So we thank you all for your kind attention.
So, does that mean that because of our stubborn nature, we were fighting with God there and He created this universe?
It's not a question of fighting. It's a question of cooperation. There's no question of you becoming powerful enough to fight with the Lord. It's a question of cooperation. Just like in the previous generation, go one or two generations before, we had a culture of joint family. Now today we have become nuclear family. Why the concept of nuclear family is flourishing more and more? The reason is now, because generally the lady would get married and go to the house, so which means the lady in general cannot gel well with other ladies in the house. I'm not blaming only to the lady, but I'm saying the culture has become like this, where the man and the lady together cannot live with a larger family. They get into conflicts. They don't want their parents to be around them, telling them what to do, what not to do, or their mamaji, tauji coming in, involving in their life. So what do they say? Let me live alone. What does a family member say? All right. That's our situation. We just couldn't continue to cooperate anymore with the Lord. So there was different interest that we had developed. So Lord said, fine, if you have something that you wish, just like what would a loving father do? Although you have a big house to live for yourself, but you're not able to deal with your mother and father, or else your spouse is not able to deal with the mother, what would the mother and father say? Beta, no problem. Although this is your own house, but if you're not feeling comfortable here, please go and take a rented apartment and live. If need to be, I can contribute in your rent. If you want to purchase, I can help you purchasing, but you got to also contribute. You got to work for it. And the son says, yes, father, that's a better idea. That's what we are doing here. That's what we are. So therefore, we need to get into the practice of Nimitta Matana Bhavasa Visachi, become an instrument of grace at the hand of the Lord. We need to again go back and start cooperating with the Lord, with the will of the Lord. All right, with that, I guess I should pause here. Any other questions we can take one on one. Thank you all for your kind attention once again. Hare Krishna.